All right, guys, I'm gonna tell you, these stories are getting old, right? This is just getting so old because there's most of the time there's a common theme with 99.9999999% of these police shootings. Okay, but before we get into that, right, let's rewind. Okay, there were protests, rioting, and looting last night in Brooklyn Center, which is a neighborhood outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota, where the current Derek Chauvin / George Floyd trial is being held. Okay, and the riots and protests and looting is in response to another shooting that happened during a traffic stop in which 20-year-old Daunte Wright was shot and killed by police. Okay, so the story goes a little bit like this. Mr. Daunte Wright was pulled over for some news outlets say it was expired tag. Some say he was pulled over because he had an air freshener in the rear view mirror, right? But regardless, he was pulled over. And as he was being pulled over, he was on the phone with his mom, right? And he was, talking to his mom, asking her for information and whatnot. Now, the police get back to the car and basically tell him to step out because they found that he had an outstanding warrant for his arrest. Okay, so at that point, they were going to try to arrest him. Okay, so at that point, the phone conversation ends and he gets out and they attempt to arrest him. Right, as they're attempting to arrest Daunte, he decides that he wants to try to run away. Right, so he tries to run away and get in the car and drive off at that point, right? And at that point, when he was in the car trying to get away, he was shot, right? He was shot, and then he ended up actually driving away, right? He drove away until he hit another car, and that's when he died, right? I'm assuming that he basically probably passed out and hit another car, and that's just kind of how it went, all right? So, people were upset about this. They got mad about it because, again, there's another black man shot and killed by the police. And to some people, that automatically means loot, riot, steal, and destroy their own neighborhoods, right? Again, I'm making sure that people understand me here. I'm not endorsing that. I'm actually saying that's the wrong thing to do, just in case anybody gets confused. Okay, so today they actually released footage, right? They released footage of the incident. And you guys know, everybody has a take before the actual footage is released, right? So, you had a lot of people that, again, were angry, upset, looting, rioting in the street. Obviously, you got celebrities chiming in, you got congressmen chiming in, you got Biden chiming in, you got everybody chiming in, okay? But once this footage comes out, it gets very, very interesting because the body cam footage shows the officer who actually shot Mr. Wright, that when she shot him, she actually thought that she had a taser. So in the video, you'll see that she has her gun, okay, and she's saying taser, 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 taser. So in the moment, she thought she had pulled her taser instead of her gun, right? And then once she actually shot him, right, he drove off. Well, as he was driving off, she shot him, and then she was like, oh shit, I shot him. That's literally what she said, like verbatim. Okay. And yeah, so obviously she didn't shoot him on purpose. She meant to tase him to try to restrain and subdue him. Okay, so this revelation comes out after the body cam footage. So let's see what the police chief has to say about this incident in terms of what he thinks.
I felt the community needed to know what happened. They needed to see it. I needed to be transparent. And I want to be forthright. I due respect to Daunte as well. From what I've understood from the public safety briefing, there was an expired registration on the vehicle. That means the tabs were expired. Upon arrival, when the officer made contact, I think at that time when he walked up to the car, he discovered that there was a hanging item from the rearview mirror. So there was a contact that the officer went up there initially for, obtained his ID or his name. And he walked back to his car, and at that time he ran his name, and he found out that he had a warrant. That's why they were moving from the car and they were making a arrest. As you can hear, the officer, while struggling with Mr. Wright, shouts, taser, taser. several times. That is part of the officer's training prior to deploying a taser, which is a less lethal device. That is done to make her partners aware, as well as the subject, that a taser deployment will be imminent. During this encounter, however, the officer drew their handgun instead of their taser. For informational purposes, we train with our handguns on our dominant side and our taser on our weak side. So if you're right-handed, you carry your firearm on your right side and you carry your taser on the left. This is done purposefully and is trained. As I watch the video and listen to the officer's commands, it is my belief that the officer had the intention to deploy their taser, but instead shot Mr. Wright with a single bullet. This appears to me, from what I've viewed and the officer's reaction and distress immediately after, that this was an accidental discharge that resulted in the tragic death of Mr. Wright. I have asked the BCA to conduct an independent investigation into the shooting and death. Once they are completed, I expect they will submit their findings, independent of me, to the appropriate authorities, the appropriate attorneys that will look and review this case. I'm also stressing that I do hope for the community to be patient and allow this investigation, criminal investigation, to be completed as thoroughly as possible. I believe Mr. Wright deserves this, as do all involved. The officer is currently on administrative leave. Make a short comment about what happened last night to our community, a community that I've been a part of for 27 years. I've seen some of the worst damage to this city I've ever seen in those years. Again, peaceful protesting, expressing yourself, we fully support that. But the ravaging of our businesses, the looting of our stores, the destruction to our pharmacies, we cannot tolerate that.
So what he says is that he thinks the officer had an accident, okay? And I would say from that video, at least from what we can see in the video, and guys, I'm not going to show the video because, I'm not trying to, get my channel taken down or anything like that. You guys can find it. It's out there. In the video, it's clear that she, in my opinion, that she thinks she has a taser. So what is the takeaway from this? I mean, guys, this should be shut and closed, man. And I'm just so tired of this narrative because I actually really do care about these people's lives, right? I actually do care about black men who are shot and killed by the police. I actually really do, okay? Unlike a lot of people, particularly on the left and these so-called, Black Lives Matter supporters, I give people practical advice. I tell them practical things based off how the world is, not based off how people want the world to be, right? In my last video, I just did a video about an incident with the officer pepper spraying the lieutenant, right? And in that incident, again, it's the same theme. This escalation would not occur if you just comply with the officer. Stop resisting arrest. And I get it. I understand the whole, it's a police state argument, the libertarian argument. I get it. The super liberal argument. I understand that. I get all that. And I'm not saying some of that stuff is not true. That's not what I'm saying. But from a practical perspective, Daunte Wright would be alive today if he didn't put himself in a situation where that female cop had to pull out her taser or gun, right? In the first place. If he just would have been arrested, right? I don't know, probably would have got released a couple days from now. He would still be alive. But because he decided to resist arrest, that's why he's no longer with us. And this is why most of these situations, most of the time, a lot of these people, again, they want to be a street lawyer. They want to resist arrest. They want to talk smack. They want to act like they can go back and forth with somebody with a gun. Okay? And that's why I keep telling people, you got to understand, regardless of your ideology, okay? A police officer is nobody but a human with a gun. That's it. They're a human with a gun with the legal authority to detain and arrest you. That's what it boils down to. Okay? And they can use this lethal force if they feel like their lives are threatened. That's what people have to understand. So in a situation like that, if you want to live or if you want to increase your chances of living, and this, again, 99.99999% of the time, this works. don't resist arrest. You know, that's not telling you to just take it. No, that's not what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is that live to fight another day. If you're being arrested for something wrong and you feel like the police officer is wrong, fight it in court. Because no amount of protest, nothing that happens that officer after the incident is going to bring you back to life if that officer shoots you. It is what it is. I'm just keeping it real. I'm not trying to be a mean person. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just trying to save lives. I am trying to save lives from a practical perspective. I operate based off how the world is, not how I want the world to be. Are the police perfect? No. Do they probably need more training? Yeah, right? It is my understanding that police officers are taught to pull their guns with their dominant hand and their tasers with their non-dominant hand, right? Obviously, in that moment, she probably freaked out. She probably was caught up in the adrenaline. She accidentally pulled her gun and she shot it. Okay, now should she be fired for that? Probably yes, right? She's probably gonna get fired, right? Because again, that's a mistake that took somebody's life. You can't take that back, and she'll probably be facing some manslaughter charges. Okay, so that's unfortunate for her, right? But hey, there are some mistakes that you can't take back, like the fact that she shot him with a gun instead of a taser, and the fact that Daunte decided to try to run instead of just getting arrested. But what I'm more concerned about is the fact that people think that for whatever reason this is supposed to be super controversial, and it's not. It's not. You're protesting something that would not have happened had the suspect just complied with the police officers. He tried to resist arrest. I mean, the dude was in the process of being arrested. Okay? Everything was running smooth. And for whatever reason, he makes a decision to try to get back in his car. It doesn't make sense. And people that excuse this type of behavior, that don't bring this stuff up, you're complicit in the next person thinking that they can do the same thing because they're going to be some type of martyr. And that's wrong. Because like I said, at the end of the day, we live in the real world. Okay? We live in the real world. And no amount of protesting, rioting, and looting is going to bring this young man's life back. But what can save lives in the future, again, is not protesting, rioting, and looting. It is telling the truth. And the truth is that you should not be trying to resist arrest in a situation like that. They had an arrest warrant. They were doing their jobs. And he put himself in a situation where the police made a fatal mistake. If I'm him in that situation, I'm not putting myself in a situation where the police are going to make a fatal mistake like that. I'm not even going to risk it. Okay? I'll fight it later. But I'm going to walk out alive if I can. Right? I'm going to try everything I can. I'm not going to try to be no street lawyer. Okay? I'm not going to try to be no superhero. I'm not doing any of that. I'm going to get arrested. And I'm going to do what I got to do. And that is the advice that is going to save people's lives. All this other stuff really is just noise, right? It's noise. I'm concerned about saving lives in the immediate future. In the so-called leadership, particularly those Democrats, the liberals, and those in the black community that are not saying the same things, like, okay, listen, yeah, we need to reform the police. But at the same time, while we're trying to reform the police, you need to make sure you comply. You need to stop resisting arrest. Don't try to fight the police. Both of those things can be said at the same time. But you're not hearing them say that. Because everybody thinks the world is black and white. But the reality is that the world is gray. That's the truth. It's gray, right? The police can be imperfect and stupid and assholes and make silly mistakes that lead to people, losing their lives. And some of them can be racist, okay? And those people should be fired, right? And the police should be reformed and there should be more training. And people that are arrested by the police can also be at fault for putting themselves in a situation where the imperfections of the police is going to cost them their lives. It's really that simple. And this situation does not cause for violence. It doesn't. This is a situation, in my opinion, where it is clear that if Daunte made better decision in that moment, he would still be with us. And that is what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about young black men making better decisions, being better decision makers. Being smart about the way they carry themselves in the street, right? And when dealing with police, right? It's really that simple. And, you know, like I said, it is what it is, but rest in peace to Mr. Daunte. And I know this is a hard situation for his family. Him being so young and in a situation like that, I know that mother who was on the phone with him had no clue that it would be the last time that she would talk to her son. Okay. And, you know, that really is tragic. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.